Okay, I am here with Matt Cartwright, who is the Democratic candidate for Congress in the 17th, Pennsylvania 17th District. Matt, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? And the first question I'm going to ask you is, what are, let's go with maybe the three most important issues facing the 17th District.
Well, sure. The way I see it, the economy and jobs are the first two most important issues. We have to focus on those things immediately, and we have to take a long view and we have to take a global view about both of those things. Now, one thing we don't want to do is take a short-sighted view. In Congress they talk about a balanced budget amendment. And the problem with that, I mean, it sounds good, but the problem with it is that it hamstrings government's efforts to stimulate the economy. I believe government has a role in stimulating the economy, in getting jobs created, in helping businesses become more competitive on the global market. And that's something we need to do. So, for example, a balanced budget amendment that prevents government from being flexible from doing that. So, as a result, what you need to do is you need to focus on the world markets. We need to do things like invest in infrastructure in this country. And I'm not just talking about maintaining roads and bridges, I'm talking about new ideas about where new roads and bridges ought to go. I'm not just talking about maintaining existing rail systems, I'm talking about new ideas for rail systems, including high-speed rail systems. They're building those in China now. Why aren't we building them here? We need to compete with China in the future, and we can't have blinders on and forget about that competition for the future. And probably the most important area of infrastructure in this country, I think, is education, because it's something you might call a brain drain, because people in the third world and emerging economies are using the internet. And this is something that the writer Thomas Friedman has talked about. He just lectured in Wilkes-Barre this past fall. And he says, because of the availability of the internet, it makes access to the educated people in the emerging economies very easy. So what's happening? They're taking jobs from our economy. We're competing with them. Our students have to compete with the students all over the world. So what do we have to do? We have to invest in our own education. We have to assist teachers in helping students get to the point where they compete with world competition. Students in India, students in China, students all over the world. If we don't invest in those things now, we're taking the short-sighted approach. And so therefore, I think it's a mistake to talk about things like a balanced budget amendment, because we shortchange ourselves in our ability to handle this economic threat from abroad.
Okay. We have a very short primary campaign here. I think you mentioned when we came in about 85 days we have to go. Okay. How much money do you expect to spend in taking on the 10-term incumbent, Tim Holden?
It's a great question, Steve, and it's daunting how much money you have to raise. And it's about getting the message out. The central difference between Tim Holden and me is that he is a blue dog Democrat, and that means he votes with the Republicans on crucial issues. And I'm not talking about, you know, the nothing votes, the procedural issues. He votes with the Republicans on huge issues like the health care. He thought it was going too far to expand health care to seniors, to young adults, to women seeking preventative health care, and for people with pre-existing conditions. My opponent thought it was going too far to do that, and so I think that the problem in this race is that we've got to raise enough money to get the message out there so that people realize that Tim Holden votes with Republicans on issues that are important to people right here in northeastern Pennsylvania. How much is it going to cost to get that message out? It's going to cost a lot of money, probably in the neighborhood of $700,000.
Okay, and I'm going to hold you to this 30-second pitch why a Democrat in the 17th District should vote for you and not Tim Holden.
Well, it's why I'm running for office. I've spent the last 25 years of my life fighting for regular people, for families in the middle class, in courtrooms. I fight against large corporations, uncaring insurance companies, and I'm fighting on behalf of the people that need my help, the most vulnerable members of society right here in northeastern Pennsylvania. I have enjoyed doing that work. I'm proud of it, and it's work that I would love to take to Congress and stick up for the same people on a much wider and larger platform in Congress, because middle-class people and working-class families need to be stuck up for in Congress, and I would like to be their voice for northeastern Pennsylvania in Congress.
Okay, a little longer than 30 seconds. Okay, now we're going to go to my patented Fast Five.
Okay.
What is your favorite movie of all times?
I think it's The Verdict with Paul Newman. It was a classic David versus Goliath story, and Paul Newman shows you what a trial lawyer goes through, the depths of despair and the heights of victory. That was one of my favorites.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read is a book by Glenn Greenwald, and it's I forget the title exactly, but it talks about how Congress is manipulated by money, and it actually mentions my opponent in that book.
Okay. Most admired president?
My favorite president was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and I'll tell you why. He worked unceasingly to fight what he called the economic royalists, who even today always line up against the interests of the middle class and the working families.
If you could have any job in the world, regardless of what it pays or whatever, just a job that would make you happy to go to work every day, and I'm going to actually take out congressmen from that, what would it be?
It would be any job where I get to fight for people. Steve, there's a lot of things that I'm no good at. You know, I was scrawny and uncoordinated in high school, but I made up for it by being slow.
Okay, and final question. Here we go.
But to answer your question, the thing I'm really good at is sticking up for people, and I love doing that.
Okay. Final question. We always do a topical one here. Who's going to win a Super Bowl?
I think the New York Giants. They seem to have the mojo. I'm good at making political predictions, as you know, Steve.
Oh, yeah. We had to get a dig in there, didn't you? Thank you so much for your time, Matt.
Thank you.